Although the Nickelodeon summer camp comedy series Salute Your Shorts only lasted for 2 seasons between 1991 and 92, its reruns were still among the highest rated basic cable shows for another 3 years afterwards. It also had one of the most traumatizing Halloween episodes known to children's television, with the terrifying character Zeke the Plumber, who likely served as the catalyst for millions of millennial horror movie obsessions, panic disorders, and probably a good handful of latex mask fetishists. Maybe this is the reason why I'm looking to go to Halloween Hammertown this year with someone shiny and poreless like a wax sculpture. And that's why I'm banned from Madame Tussauds. The second I get a glimpse at that Jim Varney mannequin, the amount of heat that radiates off my will melt that place like a box of crayons. But Halloween isn't all about the temperature of my hole. It's also about the unsettling, surreal, and downright scary, which this season 1 episode of Salute Your Shorts delivers in droves. With its B-horror inspired plot, intense nightmare sequences, and an overly combative ensemble of young characters that help make this show a fascinating time capsule of a less corporate 90s Nickelodeon, when the content included adult themes and covert sexual references that went right over our heads. Thank goodness today's children are protected from those unsavory storylines. That way they can focus their energy on social media platforms like TikTok, where they're openly encouraged to commodify their bodies by age 11. So much better. Let's go back to a simpler time when the most terrifying things we saw on television were works of fiction and not just newly updated death tolls. It's officially the Halloween season, and this Nick installment of Clip Breakdown. Hello television viewers, my name is Nick. Thank you so much for joining me once again on my channel for a spooky installment of Clip Breakdown. This is the playlist where we dive into our favorite movies, TV movies, series, and other content from the web, and we inspect it piece by piece like the trick-or-treat candy that you brought home and say, oh, that little clip has a needle in it. Oh, that little clip has a razor blade. I asked on Twitter what episode of a children's TV show traumatized you the most, and I got a lot of responses, and many of them were referring to this episode of Salute Your Shorts, which I did not remember because I was just born when this show came out. Although I do remember watching the reruns well into my being 5 years old type of age. But before we get into it, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you want to see even more Nickelodeon breakdowns. We have barely touched upon this network. Let's see how Paramount Plus goes with copyright claims. Also, most importantly, if you're new to my channel, I would love to have you click that subscribe button right over here. That way you never miss new videos from me. I upload 2 new ones every week, so turn on notifications and you'll always be the first to know. Also, I've got merch and a Patreon where you can get extra stuff. I was completely fascinated reading about the history of Salute Your Shorts and how it came to be. So I'll pepper in what I learned from Wikipedia throughout this. I'm also excited to let you know that this episode, titled after the character of terror itself, Zeke the Plumber, it's actually season 1, episode 2, so really early on in the series, and one of the highest rated episodes. Let's jump in and see why. So this episode opens with us kind of seeing the bully character of the first season, whose name is Bud, and then my name Nick is his name. There's like 1 camp counselor for this whole camp, first of all, and like 5 kids, so seems like a ritzy type of place, if you ask me. The camp counselor's name is Kevin Lee, which I forgot. They called him Ugg, as in ugly. And so Budnick here is carving ugly is stupid into the tree and gets caught by Ugg.
I'm gonna get you for writing this. Not now. Later.
You can't prove that it was me.
There's the evidence right there. Give me the tape.
I feel like this tape shows more evidence of a counselor threatening a camper than it does of a child harmlessly carving a tree. If you're gonna be one of the only adults supervising my offspring in the woods, can you maybe not come at them like the Blair Witch of Bucket Hats whenever they do something that annoys you? It's not too comforting to me as a parent. And yes, I've adopted 3 baby penguins who I skinned and made into rain boots. So I'm a dad now. I'm just kidding, animal cruelty is not the tea. Listen, I get it, Ugg. I am frequently jumping out from behind trees to menace little ones. But that's because it's my job to ask them riddles before they can cross my bridge. You're supposed to save them from drowning. There's a big difference. This theme song sequence will forever be grilled into my mind. For some reason, I have a really specific memory of watching this show at my Uncle Ronnie's house back when I was a kid. One of my earliest Nickelodeon memories, for sure.
Camp Anawana.
We hold you in our hearts.
And when we think about you, it makes me wanna fart. I hope we never part. Now get it right or pay the price.
Or pay the price? Ugh. Once again, I feel compelled to ask. This guy knows it's not okay to hurt the campers, right? Also, why is he so dedicated to his job that he needs the Anawana national anthem to be sung properly? It's a summer camp, not a North Korean work camp, so maybe unclench your sphincter a little bit about it, sir. This guy is how Jason Voorhees would have turned out if he didn't drown in Crystal Lake and just grew up to be a stickler for safe summer activities. So this show was created by Nickelodeon back when they wanted to compete with Disney Channel's afternoon programming. Nickelodeon at the time was starting to become known as the Game Show Network because of the success of Double Dare. The creator of the show, Steve Slavkin, really wanted to offer kids something different in terms of TV shows because this was going to be a single camera show where each little episode felt like its own self-contained story. It was still affordable. They only spent about $150,000 on each episode, shot it on video for cheap, and then put it through filters that gave it like a film look. That way they could give kids this like cinematic sort of experience with a comedy, with a cast of characters they could fall in love with. So it was a big step for children's television, and it, to me, signals why this show became such a cult classic, even with like only 23 episodes. This episode starts with all of the campers telling ghost stories, and Budnick is telling, you know, the mystery of the guy who used to work at the camp.
There's a guy named Zeke. He used to clean out the toilets here at camp, but the smell didn't bother him. When he was in the army, he got his nose bit off by a parrot in the Philippines.
I think you mean thank you for your service? At Camp Anawana, we pay respect to our veterans, okay? So let's all have a moment of silence for Zeke, the scrubbing janitor with the mutilated face.
One day, Zeke's outside digging a hole, and he hits a pipe, a gas pipe. He makes a big mistake and lights a match. Boom!
Wait, why was he digging a hole? Just for fun? Or was it also a part of his toilet job to carve actual septic tanks out of the forest floor? Because then that's on him for not dialing 811 first to register his dig and avoid any utility lines. This is a safety precaution that I take before I start digging any of the outdoor holes that I shit in, which is just something nice I try to do in the front yard of everyone who moves into this condo complex. Budnick here is not just a rinky-dink storyteller, okay? He comes with the props.
All they ever found was this.
A toilet plunger? This is the lamest ghost story I've ever heard.
I know, Budnick. What's the big deal? My dad has one of these at home.
So then you should probably know enough not to stick your face right in the part of it that makes contact with human waste. He's motorboating that thing like everyone has one of these. It's something you stick in the toilet. Okay, then why are you eating your Raisin Bran out of it right now? Put that down. Like you're all touching it.
They say old Zeke the Plumber's ghost still walks around Camp Anawana looking for his plunger.
Well, he's gonna have a pretty hard time finding it when that wooden handle is 13 inches up my ass in bunk 4B. What? We're camping. Isn't that what they mean when they say roughing it? Like a unfinished wooden dildo? A sturdy bamboo? Fine, whatever. Back to whatever these little kids were saying.
Anyone who touches it will be haunted in their dreams.
What is this guy, the Freddy Krueger of custodians?
The actual Freddy Krueger was a custodian, you dumb Sorry, Annabelle. I know this is your first summer here and you've been having trouble fitting in, but I think this is a great example as to why. Maybe just don't talk if you don't have anything to contribute. Despite everyone trying to save face, the campers are clearly disturbed by this ghost story. In the girls' cabin, they're putting salt circles around their bed, no, toothpaste circles around their bed and doing rituals to protect themselves from spirits. While Michael, who was sort of the protagonist of the first season, although he left the show for season 2, and was replaced with a character who wasn't as obviously a protagonist. So the second season felt a little bit more like an ensemble cast. But in this scene, Michael is having a dream. This is where we get scary, everybody. Like, oh. That's me trying to sleep after I decide to Postmates the Applebee's Classics combo platter into my digestive tract just 10 minutes before bed. My stomach is like, really? It's iced coffee and soda water all day, and then you want to pour on a half quart of melted cheese and marinara sauce right under the wire at 11:59? You know what? Do what you want, but your intestines are gonna sound like a waterbed tonight. And this is the burden that I live with in modern America, where you can have anything you want at the click of a button. Let's go back to the old days where I had to go out and shoot a buffalo and slit its throat and drink its blood when I wanted some micronutrients. I had to take a goddamn cow hoof and shove it down my throat. Apologies to my hairline. I cannot afford to be ripping out my frontal hairs. Guys, this is scary. Now it's really scary, I'm telling you.
Who are you?
Friends call me Zeke.
This is exactly the character I imagined when I heard Chris Pratt is going to be playing Mario in the upcoming movie. This is the early 90s nightmare fuel I was hoping to experience this Halloween season. And I'm not just referring to the prison cell placement of that zero privacy open air toilet in a camp cabin. I would be like, you know what, it's okay. I'll just defecate when I get home in September. Regardless, Zeke the Plumber, as you see, is scarier and more horror movie authentic than anything we've seen on 21st century Nickelodeon shows. I feel like back in the early 90s, you could see a much clearer distinction between how Nickelodeon was owned by MTV, because all of Nickelodeon had an almost rebellious spirit to it. Although obviously when competing with the mega corporation Disney, they had to make some changes in the new millennium to start making some intellectual properties that they could really market and build theme parks off of. And that means being the type of show that like Trix Yogurt will want to play its commercials on. Zeke with his magic toilet plunger and his weird ass toilet is freaking me out right now. Wait, so you're not supposed to flush your cat down the toilet when it dies like a goldfish? The Petco sales associate did not tell me that. Never let anyone at those big box pet stores rush you into buying the sickest looking animal just because it's the end of their shift before a long weekend. I'm just kidding. We adopt and we don't shop in this household. Adopt animals from a shelter. Don't buy them from a store. But that's not a dead cat he pulled out of the toilet. It's like Mr. Hippopotamus, which is Michael's stuffed animal that he really doesn't want any of the kids at camp to know about.
Harry the Hippo? Hey, where'd you get him from?
From inside your head. That's where you keep all the things you don't want anybody to know about.
If that were me, I'd be like, how are you gonna pull the fact that I secretly want to take dance lessons out of a toilet? Also, according to the ghost story, Zeke lost his nose from a parrot in the war and then used the mask after a subsequent gas explosion to cover the burns. So why is there a bloody nose bandage over his mask? He really wanted that parrot attack to be at the forefront of his brand, I guess. But until I hear that bird side of the story, I'm not ready to pass judgment on anyone in the situation. Wait. Okay, now I'm ready. Zeke gets a megaphone and he's threatening to tell the whole camp that he, Michael, sleeps with a stuffed animal. And Michael's like, why are you doing this?
Let's see what else you have inside your head.
While this is terrifying and definitely far too scary for most kids, it's also a harmful misrepresentation of how toilet plungers work. This seems to imply that they could somehow suction things out of a small space like a vacuum, when really, as the name implies, it's used to plunge things deeper, like Crisco at a fisting fiesta. And before anyone asks in the comments, no, this video has not been sponsored by fisting. I just bring it up in every video because, you know, I talk about what I see in the world, okay? I live in Palm Springs. What do you want? In this next scene, we have Telly, who is the other camper who touched the plunger and therefore inherited the curse. She didn't get any sleep the night before, and so at breakfast, she like immediately falls asleep. I sort of don't buy how Budnick comes over and immediately goes in her ear and is like, Zeke the Plumber, Zeke the Plumber, as though it's that easy to influence someone's dreams. By the way, this lipstick is in the shade Sea Sheer from MAC, and then I'm just doing a clear lip oil over it. So thanks to Budnick, Telly instantly goes into a dream about Zeke the Plumber. And I just love how clearly influenced by Freddy Krueger this episode was. Like, what? You don't get that in kids shows today. Or if you did, it would be like so far removed from the source material that most kids wouldn't even recognize the reference. It would be like, he steals your candy in your dreams or whatever.
Who are you?
I'm Zeke the Plumber. I'm the custodian who grants you wishes.
What I really want to do is play professional ball.
Your wish is my command.
And that's the day Larry Bird was born. Yes, she could have gone WNBA, but she wanted to be treated like, you know, a human. But it's a trick. Be careful what you wish for with Zeke the Plumber, mama, because he's not always gonna give you what you want. Even when she said it, I was like, she needs to be more specific when she says she wants to play ball, because I think instantly like ball culture, honey. Because unfortunately for Telly, she's not playing professional ball. She is at some sort of professional ball, which is not what she likes. She's the opposite.
This stuff is for sissy little girls who got nothing better to do with their lives.
Me writing the invitations for my Pride after party. There will be nail painting, top 40 music, and a mix your own mocktail bar that I call gender fluid. I don't like anything where someone's trapped in hell forever, and the scary ass music for this scene also freaks me out. So like, I'm getting why we were traumatized as children by this. I say collectively because as a generation, we all share the same trauma and we'll pass it on to the next generation, and so on and so forth until this earth explodes.
No!
Yes, I'm afraid you're trapped for quite a long while. Enjoy the music and let's dance!
It's so funny how Telly's eternal hell would be my eternal heaven. A 24/7 dance floor and a dress that I can twirl in? Why is she screaming? She could be doing Molly with the devil and grinding on that noseless burn victim. I would be like, yeah, we love them overalls, daddy. What? The real nightmare for me is that this show that we're watching here was shot 1 month after I was born in May of 1991, 30 years ago, back when we still had a chance to do anything about climate change. I mean, we still can do some things, but the IPCC report that came out recently let us all know that countries have delayed like stopping fossil fuel burning for so long that they can no longer stop global warming from intensifying over the next 30 years. But I mean, we can't just give up. There is still a small window where we can like mitigate the worst of our apocalypse. The planet has already warmed up 1 degree Celsius, 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is higher than pre-industrial levels caused by humans. The warming up until this point has exacerbated natural disasters like flooding and wildfires, so we can imagine it's only going to get worse if we don't do something big. The US has the goal of eliminating its net carbon emissions by 2050, which is absolutely key. And then additional action like mitigating the methane release from agriculture, as well as oil and gas drilling, that's also gonna help reduce the warming even further. Each one of us has a responsibility to do the right thing for the environment in our personal habits. But ultimately, we have to look to large solutions like investing in green infrastructure that actually creates economy. We have to make sustainability profitable, which it can be with green jobs. Green energy infrastructure could even make the job market more equitable by providing opportunities and good paying jobs to more people in underserved communities. Just vote, and vote for people who care about the environment. So after Telly wakes up from her nightmare, her and Michael are like, did you have a dream about the janitor as well? It seems like he uses what we're most afraid of against us. And it's like, how did you guys both dream the same exact person with the same exact motive? That's a little weird. Also, it never comes back to Zeke looking for his plunger again. We never once see him like, where's my plunger? Which I think would be a cool element since, you know, Budnick brought it up. Like if Budnick then hid the plunger under one of the bunks and scared them, I don't know. The kids realize the only way to make these dreams go away that Budnick put in their head is by challenging him to a bet to stay out on the spot where Zeke died for an entire night. And if he loses, then he has to stand up in front of the whole cafeteria and say he's a wimp. And if he wins, then, you know, Telly has to wear a dress for the day and Michael has to carry around his stuffed animal. So there we go. The situation of the sitcom has begun.
According to camp records, Zeke the Plumber expired here.
This seems like a strange place for there to be a gas line explosion, but you're the 11-year-old child actor from Burbank who was hired to play an expert on the subject, so I won't argue. Also, I guess there are camp records that Zeke the janitor actually existed and exploded on that spot. And they're like, great, let's just go there. Also, wouldn't there be like a hole or something? They said he died in an explosion, right? But also, if he died in an explosion, how was there ever time for him to put a mask over his burns? This was not a well thought out, scary story, I'm gonna be honest. Budnick's like sidekick as a bully is this kid named Donkey Lips, and him and Budnick get into a little scuffle right before this is all about to go down.
I asked for ruffled potato chips, you moron.
You know, I was gonna sit out here with you, but now you can forget it.
You 10-ton traitor, Tuna.
I feel like a lot of this show is just kids screaming alliterative insults at one another. How much are their parents paying for these endless days of unstructured arguing? I'm just saying, would it break the budget for them to bring in a yoga teacher once a week to make sure these straight boys don't club each other to death with tree branches? So now that his only buddy is out of there, Budnick has to stay alone at the campsite, but he instantly enacts a plan, setting, it looks like Home Alone style traps. But he's not the only one planning a prank on this evening, okay? The other campers are back at the bunk deciding what they're gonna do to scare Budnick during this evening. Even the counselor, Ugg, gets in on it, which I'm like, first of all, unprofessional, and second of all, why would any camp counselor knowingly let a child spend an entire night out in the woods sitting in a folding chair? Oh, a fun fact, I love that this show was shot actually in Los Angeles. A lot of it was at Griffith Park Boys Camp. In fact, the reason this show did not get picked up for a third season is because Nickelodeon wanted to move the cast to Florida so that they could shoot this in Nickelodeon studios where they used to make a lot of their shows. And none of the cast, or most of the cast, didn't want to move from LA. Good on them, because Nickelodeon studios did not last forever anyway. Also, it seems like the cast were not getting pay raises commensurate with the success of the show. So the creator even bailed on the last 2 episodes of season 2 in protest. I forget what I was talking about just now. Kids acting? Kids should not have to act, but whatever, it's not my job. Oh, the reason Nickelodeon wanted to move the production to Florida was to save money so that they could fund an upcoming venture called Beavis and Butthead, which, as we know, worked out great for them. Telly and some other camper go up to scare Budnick at his spot, but when he's not there, and he actually flips it around and scares them off, he's feeling real high and mighty.
I'm the master of the universe! Nobody can scare me!
That's how I feel after working up the courage to remind my server that I asked for a side of ranch with my fries. When the rest of the campers try to come out and scare Budnick, all of his traps are sprung, which includes a shaken up soda can spraying them. He basically just calls them on it, and you know, they're like, all right, fine, you win. Oh, but also I forgot to say, when they were planning their prank, the counselor was like, I've got my own surprise in store. So basically, Michael and Telly are about to concede to their embarrassing failures, but then they hear someone else in the distance, so Budnick is like, I'll go check it out. And look what he discovers.
My name is Zeke the Plumber, and I've come to collect your head in my bucket.
Wait, when did the bucket thing get added to this folklore? At this point, I feel like TV producers are trying to scare children because their brains are all up from the lead-painted toys they sucked on in the 60s. There's no other explanation for why they would do this. I've mentioned when we reviewed Disney's horror mystery programming, such as Tower of Terror and So Weird, how they actually use editing to make the scares less effective. Like, you won't get a straight jump scare, you'll get a softened jump scare with delayed music so that it feels not like terrifying, but just like, ooh, suspensing, shockful. But this episode is using true to horror movie editing and production tactics, from lighting to music to like the way they cut it together. It's all identical to how an authentic horror movie would be. So I feel like that plays a lot into why, as kids, people were like, and had nightmares about this forever. Also, when you're a kid, I feel like we remember our nightmares a lot more vividly because they're like newer to us and more traumatizing. And when Michael woke up and saw that random plumber plunging in the cabin, like that felt like a real fever nightmare that I would have had as a kid. So seeing that type of surreal horror as a child would have definitely me up. Like, my parents would not have let me watch this episode. I couldn't watch Are You Afraid of the Dark? None of it. Too scared. After the bucket thing, Zeke chases after Budnick and it's like scary as hell. Again, slasher movie sequence.
I can smell your fear.
Oh really? Does it smell like a pair of kids' track pants filling up with fear piss like a hot water bottle? Because that murderer just ran down a child as though this were an R-rated horror movie. Like, the only difference is instead of an actual murder right now, they're gonna cut to a Gushers commercial.
New Fruitomic Punch Gushers with a taste that's gonna drive you fruity.
Okay, that was scary too. Is that kid permanently going to be stuck looking like Blue Al Roker? Also, I don't know if you've ever eaten Gushers in real life, but they do not look like these perfect little gems shown on TV. Mama, those kids in the commercial are either eating board game pieces or ecstasy tablets. And in my experience, only one of those things is gonna turn me fruity enough for a Wednesday afternoon circuit party. Oh God, sassy homosexual sayings. The smell your fear, I'm like sick of this Zeke guy. He's scaring the f out of me. Budnick is not so easily scared.
I was luring you into a trap. You know, I knew you weren't a real ghost when you said I smell your fear, because the real Zeke the Plumber didn't have a nose.
You see, back in the early 90s, most scientists believed that ghosts needed an actual nose in order to smell fear. But those were just the preliminary findings from the paranormal research that Ronald Reagan conducted as part of his doing anything I can to ignore the AIDS epidemic agenda. Of course, Budnick takes a mask off, and if it weren't for you meddling kids, we wouldn't have known that this was Counselor Ugly being upside down.
Ugh! So you think I'm a loser, huh?
Well, you are a grown man who just stalked a preteen through the woods all night in order to get revenge on them for carving something mean about you into a tree trunk. I feel like that is not the nighttime routine of someone who is currently winning at anything. So Budnick goes on his way to get a knife to cut down what's his name, and he's gloating all along, but that gets him into trouble. It showed earlier that he hated spiders, so now one final twist out of like 13 twists.
There is nothing in the world that I'm afraid of. Except spiders. Somebody help me, please. Oh, help! There's gotta be someone who can help me. One of my friends. I don't have any friends.
Maybe it's just because this video resolution is 480p, but I can't really see anything that another person would be able to help you with. Like, yes, you just walked into a spider's web, but I don't think you need to panic that much unless you're some sort of fly or small insect. The campers have been eating them gushers out in the woods and losing their minds, thinking that they're bugs and sticking their faces into toilet plungers. It's crazy town up in here. If I worked at this camp, I would be a child villain too. I would be like, you guys are crazy. I'm gonna do a 4-point restraint on these bunk beds. But all the campers come to the aid of stupid Budnick, and they're like, I guess you learned your lesson not to scare us. But he still is forever the bully on this show, so he doesn't really learn. Also, when he was screaming, he's like, I'll do anything if someone helps me. I'll be your slave forever. So now I guess he's their slave forever, and I'm just like, let's not use the word slave. So he has to like carry all their stuff, but it looks like he forgot something.
I wanna kill him. I wanna kill him.
First of all, I don't know how you didn't die after hanging upside down like that all night. At the very least, your heart must be extremely tired right now, and the blood pressure in your head is about to make those eyeballs pop out like you're an overbred bulldog at any second. It's no wonder that these kids have awful, disturbing nightmares about camp staff hurting them. Their one and only counselor like casually throws out death threats every time they use a curse word. But hey, that's what it was like back in the 90s, baby, when the term mass shooting just meant that your dad was gonna take the home video camera to the church service on your first communion. And that's all she wrote for Salute Your Shorts, Zeke the Plumber, the scariest episode you told me about on Twitter. Although we have some scary ghostwriter episodes that people told me about, all sorts of scary kids TV. So drop some more ideas in the comments because I'm looking to have a spooky October, mama. Get ready for another full-length movie this Friday review breakdown. Also, give this video a big thumbs up if you want to see even more clip breakdowns on Nick content like this. But most importantly, if you're new to my channel, I would love to have you click that subscribe button right over here. That way you never miss new videos from me. I upload 2 new ones every week, so turn on notifications and you'll always be the first to know when we're hanging upside down till our organs crush our lungs. Also, as I said, I've got merch and a Patreon where you can access monthly watch parties and exclusive content. You guys are all the greatest. Thank you for Camp Onawana-ing with me today. I will see you next time.